Hello and welcome to the penultimate race of Season 11 of the All-Assist League. It is the turn of Portugal to welcome the gladiators of Danger David and VSM Sandman battling it out at the top of the championships once again. And to quote the Blues Brothers, we're putting the band back together here in the commentary box as I get the honour of welcoming back Skin. It's been a while. How are you doing?
Good, mate. Thank you. Happy Monday. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. It's been a nice little week off for myself, so I'm back and I'm hyped. I'm ready to go. We've nearly finished this season, which means it's the make or break for a lot of drivers, isn't it? Of course, and no more so than the two that we speak at volume. I'm sure that people will say that Danger David and VSM Sandman. They were a little bit of an upset on the cards at the beginning of this season, weren't they? The likes of AMS Johnsy getting in there and kind of upsetting the rhythm that these two had set. But it looks like it's the old Manchester United Arsenal battles, isn't it, that we're going to see once again at the front of the grid.
Yes, mate. Got the standings up in front of me. Obviously, we missed last week in Canada, which was a race won by Evo 32. So, really great performance. Sandman crashed out, and Danger David finished outside of the top three. So, I think he finished fourth, looking at the points. So, yeah, it looks like we missed a bit of an interesting race last week, to be honest. Shout out to RS 0121 in the Mercedes, back-to-back second place finishes. So I know a lot of our attention over the weeks and the races has been on Danger David and Sandman, naturally, with them being at the top, but I don't think we should let something like that go under the radar. Is he in a position to push for the title? No, 182.5 points behind Danger David, but with two races to go, it's a massive confidence boost, I'm sure. And if he can maintain that consistency, we might have a third title contender heading into season 12 when it eventually starts.
Yeah, it's something that the Aston Martins did last season as well, wasn't it? Competing quite highly, always there or thereabouts, but never managing to get over the line. So it was good to see that Evo managed to do that. We are near the end of a first season in the new Formula One game. How have you found the adaptability that these drivers have brought? How have you found the adaptation that they've had to apply to this game?
I think it's hard to say on two reasons. One as a viewer of the league and then one as a player of the game. The first one as a viewer of the league, we only saw, two races before this game came out. So, we'd not played it for a while. So, yeah, from that perspective, it's hard to say because we only saw them in two races on the last league when we'd not seen all the seasons previous. In terms of player, I think I've done about 3 or 4 laps on this game since it came out, and very much like yourself, I think you'd agree that if it wasn't for us commentating on this league, we wouldn't have bought the game yet. So it's hard to comment on that, but look, there's been some fantastic performances. It's really good to see a lot of the same names. That's how you build a competitive league. If it's just a league name where loads of different people are in it each and every week, it's hard to get excited. But when you're talking about the same people, well, most of the same people week in, week out, and teams are gelling and pushing for that constructors, it makes for a really competitive and exciting league to watch and discuss with you.
Absolutely. Well, we are underway with the short qualifying session, followed by a 50% race here in Portugal. That means it's just 18 minutes of qualifying action to bring you. I can just tell you that Herman, on his debut here in the All-Assist Soft League, has left during qualifying. He may be back before we get to the conclusion of this qualifying session, though. It is Frankie 1811.
Rumours are that he saw that 119.4 from Peter Caspi and thought his fastest he's ever done in Portugal is a 121, so he thought fuck that and just binned it.
Well, that might explain it. But even top of that, Evo is now set at 117.9, which puts him on provisional pole on the back of a race win, as you mentioned last week in Canada. Toxic CZ10 is in second place at the moment, 3/10 behind Evo. Frankie 1811 on a 118.7. Sekulovic MNE on 119.2, as we just see Pleasant Snake going up into third place for the Alfa Romeos in second and third place as it stands at the moment. Peter Caspi's original time of 119.4 has seen him head straight back into the pits, but it was only good enough to get him in sixth place. At the moment, we are on board with Racing Wheel, who just crosses the line with his time of 123.1. The thing that I have noticed about how these drivers approach these laps is, if we spin off, we tend to go back into the pits, anything like that. They slow it down. They prepare themselves for another lap And the tactical side of things, the strategy of this All Assist Soft League is completely different to anything I've witnessed before whilst playing the game. I don't know if that's just me or whether that's you as well.
Yeah, I'm definitely learning from them, having watched the races we watch, as opposed to sitting here thinking I could give driver X some advice. So, yeah, all the things that we talk about, how we're used to doing this, we've done this is how we've normally seen it. I think that's more about how terrible we are at the game compared to how bad these are. So, yeah, clearly it's the way to go. Don't just bin off, don't waste time. Slow down, save your tyres, I suppose, is the big thing as well. Save your tyres, create a bit of space on the track, and ready to go again. Just on board with Danger David, yet to set a time, is on a timed lap as we stand. Sandman pretty much taking the approach that he mentioned there, 152, so he's bottom of the pile at the moment, but you just know that he's going to find a good 45 seconds somewhere. Well, probably not that much, but about a good 35 seconds maybe. It's Danger Dave crosses the line with a 1:17.3.
Wow.
Takes provisional pole nearly 7/10 quicker than the Inform Evo 32. So what a lap. I'm sure he'll have half an eye on what Sandman ends up producing, and yes, that could be it for Danger David based on that. But 11.5 minutes to go. Is it it's confusing me saying Q1. Is it a full qualifying session or just a one-time session?
It's a 18-minute timed session, and I'm just going to go on the back of what you just said about Danger David. Trugster's just at a 1:17.018, which puts him on provisional pole, takes that away from Danger David, so a bit more time the Red Bull needs to find if he's going to get himself back on pole position. His teammate is sat in 4th place. Now, Skin, I know you're a Red Bull fan. I know the time that you saw them get a 1, or you missed them get a 1-2 was the 1 week that you was away. It was Perez on top step of the podium, Danger David in 2nd. Now, after the first race, Danger David played down any sort of drivers' championship chances, put these all on the pressure of Red Bull need to win. It needs to be a team effort. We need to beat Ferrari. Well, at the moment, he's set to win the drivers' championship. Him and D. Perez are set to win the constructors' championship. I found out shortly after that these two have been racing for more years than I've known you. So they've been racing for a long time. And then Danger David now with a chance to do the double on the back of saying it's all about the team. Do you think that now looking back on it, that was a well-played mind game?
I don't think it was much of a mind game, to be honest. Again, we're only going off of a small sample size. We've not been commentating about them, as long as they've been racing, which, like I said, there's a very, very long time. But I don't think you use that tactic as a mindset when you've been driving with someone for that amount of time. So I think that was a genuine claim and push for the constructors. We've said it in previous races. Overall, they're the strongest team, and they have been the strongest team. Sandman has won the championships in which we've watched previously, but his teammate hasn't quite backed him up, and that's the same for a lot of the other teams where they have a driver that are in and around that top 3 or 5. So yeah, I think that was genuine, and there wasn't really any mind games to go with it. And ultimately, if they want to push for the constructors, they both have to perform well anyway. So if you're up there on the constructors, you're going to be there or thereabouts for the drivers as well. So yeah, I could be wrong, but I don't think that was a tactic as you called it, or an attempt at a mind game.
Well, if he joins the commentary box after the race, where we will get post-race reaction, I'll be able to ask him, and we'll find out just which one of us is correct on that. I am on board at the moment with VSM Sandman, who is flying through Sector 2, and he's just set purple in Sector 1 as well, as he's gone a little bit wide, just as I said. That commentator's curse is what we'll call that, as his best time at the moment is 1:52.4. Is good enough to put him in 17th place. Herman is yet to rejoin the session, which means as it stands, he will start at the back of the grid. We do have a lot of cars out on track. Perez, Danger David, Trugster and Toxic, and now Sokulovic are the ones that are still in the garage as we watch VSM Sandman go around the last couple of corners into the final DRS detection zone in Sector 3 onto a relatively long pit straight. If you can get the right time here with a good result of DRS zone, should I say, in the race, you've got a long shot at overtaking somebody. But VSM Sandman has abandoned that lap. He's gone back into the pits, and he will prepare for what we've seen him do in the past as effectively a one-shot qualifying session for himself. He's left himself to the very last to go out there and set a time lap. It is risky. It can be considered relatively risky, but in the past, it has worked out for him. Maybe the added pressure is something that works out in his favour. He isn't at the back, though. RS0121, who is still in the qualifying session, is sat at the back, and he is also in the pits at the moment, as we will have a look at D. Perez, who has dropped down into 6th place at the expense of Frenkie 1811 and Pleasant Snake 13. So it's a nice plethora of teams separating the top 4 at the moment, with Trugster, Danger David, Evil and Pleasant Snake all for separate teams. Then Frenkie 1811 making the Alpha Tauris a little bit better off than the Red Bulls at the moment. A good argument for both of those two, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely, mate. Just on board with Evo. It looked up and down the grid. I was on board with Quincy. Set time put him up in 6th place, but has dropped down to 8th now. Just going back to your previous point about Sandman coming out, being a bit all over the place, pitting, doing it again. There's been many times where we've commentated where he seems to have had 2 or 3 attempts at it. Do you think for him it is the mental side of it? Because it's not just once; it is genuinely multiple times now in the short amount of time we've been commentating on the league, where, like I said, he's gone out early, he's gone wide, or he's not done it. He's not happy, so he's slowed down, saved tyres, and then he's gone again, and then he's ended up pitting, so he's not set a time. Done that 2 or 3 times, and then right at the death has set a time lap. Is that a mental aspect? So I suppose you could say, well, just go out right at the end. But obviously, you've not got a fallback if that's the case. But is there something that changes mentally for him, do you think, knowing that he's only got one more shot at it when he goes out after 2 or 3 mistakes throughout the qualifying up to that point?
Yeah, for me, I think it is a mental side of things. I think what he tends to do during these qualifying laps is he puts himself under that pressure at the very end, because if you've noticed, these errors that he's making, they're very rarely seen in a race environment. They're only ever shown in qualifying. So when he is going around the track in qualifying, I think he's just adjusting himself, preparing himself, knowing what gears to be up and down into. And then he leaves himself with the pressure of that one-shot qualifying, because he works well under pressure. And some people do. Me personally, as you know, Skin, I bottle it under pressure. But there are people that actually thrive under it and perform better for it. And I think that's got to be said for Sandman, because when the odds are against him, he turns it up another level, doesn't he?
Yeah, definitely, mate. And that's proven by the fact that those times that we just said, that have been multiple times, he's come out and he's smashed pole. It's proven by the fact that he's won the last 3 World Championships in this league, is it? So, yeah, we can comment, we can speculate, we can wonder, but ultimately the leaderboards that go up and the stats, I think, show that it doesn't particularly matter how he goes about doing it, because when he does do it, he delivers. So just still on board with him now as he's going round. 5 minutes left, so again we're getting to that sort of time now where he's got to start looking at getting something on the board. Trugster, despite still being 3/10 ahead of Nate Danger David, is on an outlap. So probably going to look to get that into the 116s as Sandman goes over the line and has done exactly that, 116.7. Now Leeds has provisional pole and Trugster has 3/10 to find, and anybody else that might want pole will have even more than that. Great lap from Sandman, and I think that's the earliest into qualifying that he's got provisional pole, so some progress for him on the nice open track that is Portugal. It does look a bit, I don't know what the weather report is, and I don't know if it's just the game, but it does look to have gone a little bit cloudy and gloomy in the last sort of 90 seconds to 2 minutes, so potentially some rain going into the last couple of minutes, which means that if drivers want to get a faster lap, they need to be getting out sharpish. Back on board with Trugster now, and he is currently going just over 1/10 quicker than his previous fastest lap. So Adam, I will let you take us through the second half of Trugster's quest to get back provisional pole.
Yeah, he's certainly been asked questions now from one of the frontrunners to win the World Championship. The 3-time defending champion BSM Sandman set a time of 116.7. the current championship leader of Nay Danger David, is sat in the pits with 3.5 minutes to go on a 1:17.3, but Trugster needs to find himself 0.3 of a second if he is to take himself back to the top step, ready for the race that will start in around about 5 minutes' time. I can't guarantee we aren't going to have the formation lap. I'm hoping it's something that has now been completely done away with after the issues we've had in the past. But he goes round onto the pit straights now with 1:16.7 the time to beat, and he heads straight into the pits. So any sort of momentum we were starting to build there has gone as we jump on board with RS 0121, who is up in third place at the moment. I think he's just set that time for the Mercedes as well to get himself into third place. The excitement of the Constructors' Championship is beginning to heat up, considering the fact that the top 5 all race for different teams. You've got a Ferrari, an AlphaTauri, a Mercedes, a Red Bull, and an Aston Martin there, before we also see D. Perez sat down in 6th place. We are getting to the point now where it is make or break for these drivers, where they're not able to go out there and do an outlap before setting their timed lap, and we are going to see, I assume, quite a few of those cars head back out onto track, which will make the track relatively busy. We are on board at the moment, though, with the current championship leader, that is Danger David, on a 1:17.3. He's on his outlap, so I am going to move across onto Ivor, who is currently 0.5 quicker than his fastest time at the end of Sector 1. He is on a 1:17.4. If he can keep up that pace throughout the remainder of this lap, that will put him up into 2nd place ahead of Trugster. He still needs to find a little bit more if he's to beat the 1:16, the phenomenal 1:16 that VSM Sandman managed to set, but he did go purple in Sector 1. So it is all eyes on Ivor and the Aston Martin as he makes his way through Sector 2 at the moment. As we can see on the left-hand side, RS 0121, Sir Ibo and Racing Wheel are the only 3 cars that are still in the pits, and I assume we won't be seeing from them again, and I can guarantee that we will not be seeing from Herman again before the end of this qualifying session, which means he will start at the back of the grid. Ivor, as we are on board with at the moment, heading round now onto the final DRS detection zone, going onto the pit straight in Sector 3 as Peter Caspi has retired from qualifying as well in the Ferrari. His teammate currently on pole position. Here we go then. It's set a 1:17.097, just a moment away from Trugster's time of 1:17.018. He does leave him in 3rd place. It pushes the Red Bulls even further down. So in 5th and 6th at the moment are Danger David and D. Perez, as Danger David makes his way off the track. I'm not quite sure what he's doing here. I think he's allowing quite a few cars to pass him before he can have one final shot at beating the time of 1:16.7, but maybe going across the track wasn't the right way to do so. I think he's cutting again, so I'm not quite sure what's going on here. I think this is is this a shortcut towards the pits, or is this a little bit of a runoff?
Pits, yeah.
It is a shortcut into the pits. So yeah, Danger David will not be better in his time of 1:17.3. On an outlap at the moment is RS 0121. Is 16 seconds left if he's going to get across that line to set a new time, and I don't think he's going to be able to do so. Nope, he's just veered straight off the track. So it looks like VSM Sandman, barring an excellent lap or an outstanding lap from Trugster, is going to be on pole position, but we'll jump on board now with Trugster, who is in 2nd place. He's currently going slower than his fastest lap at the moment, so a bit more time needs to be found heading through Sector 2 at the moment. He's still 0.3 behind that of VSM Sam, and I think the time that he set in his last lap didn't beat his best either, which is why he's still sat in 2nd place, a little bit further ahead of the Aston Martin of Evo. But Skin, your thoughts on VSM Sandman being in pole position, but more importantly, your Red Bulls being 5th and 6th place?
Yeah, disappointing. I'm sure they will feel off the back of that, and I think, yeah, Trugster, that's game over for that lap. So, yeah, Sandman will have pole, as, yeah, Trugster commits to cutting corners and going into the pit. So, yeah, 5th and 6th, but again, in terms of team, they're in a great position. Ferrari 1st and 16th. AlphaTauri is it next? Can't quite see all the way over here.
AlphaTauri,
yeah, 2nd and 9th, so not too bad. Mercedes 3rd and sorry, not Mercedes, Aston Martin 3rd and 17th. Mercedes 4th and 11th. So again, in terms of overall team, they're in the best position as it stands. So again, with that strategy, I think they'll be relatively happy, ready to make some moves going into the race, which should start in the next couple of minutes or so.
Yes, so Skin, whilst we look at the speeds that these drivers are going around the track, that is not going to be compared to the speed you're going to be going tomorrow. So would you like to tell us a little bit more about that?
Don't know about the speed side of it. 120 mile I've heard is the max, so you'd hope that they'll be going quicker than that around this race. But anyway, yeah, tomorrow, Tuesday, Tuesday the 22nd of August, I will be doing a skydive. I know it's not something that you're a fan of doing, Aggie, but not usually one for New Year's resolutions, but thought sort of back end of last year, thought, right, give myself something to work for. Relatively happy in my work life, happy in my personal life, so I need something to work towards. So I thought, fuck it, I want to do a skydive in 2023. So yeah, originally was meant to be on Friday, but due to the cloudy weather, I weren't able to do it. And I've not had a text this evening to say that they'll be looking at the weather tomorrow. So looks like we're good to go, mate. 3 miles up in the air, 60-second free fall at max speed of 120 mile an hour, and then about a 5 minute or so float back down to the ground once the parachute gets let out, if it does get let out. But we'll see sometime early afternoon tomorrow.
There we go. Well, best of luck with it. And of course, we look forward to hearing more about it in the race finale next Monday here on the All Assists Off League. But as we prepare for the penultimate race in Portugal, it is VSM Sandman back on pole position, back on at the front of the grid where he feels he will rightly belong. Needs this win to, of course, close the gap on Danger David, who starts fifth with his teammates in sixth place, respectively. So what sort of strategy and what sort of approach do you feel they need to be taking into this race? We'll start with, from a Ferrari perspective, of course, more for VSM Sandman, who is on first place.
Just do what he's done, whatever it's been for the last God knows how long. Just do it. How many times have we expected some kind of collision or chaos going into that first corner or two, and by the end of the first lap he's got at least a 3-second lead. So don't worry about what's going on behind him. Just look at that big empty track in front of him and attack it. That's all I can say he can do, because that's what he's been doing, and it's paid off.
There we go. We sit here, we say this all the time. We sit here talking about the strategies and the different approaches these drivers could be taking into the race, as people that have I don't think you've ever done it. I've driven once with all assists off, and it was possibly the worst experience on this game of my life. I think I managed about 3 corners. So we talk about the strategies and the best approaches for it, and I think it's going to be another split strategy for Red Bull. Do you think the reason why maybe Ferrari aren't quite up there at the moment anymore, they won it, of course, last year as well, didn't they? So do you think maybe that is the fact that there is no Vincenzo this season, the fact that there have been alternating teammates for VSM Sandman, that he hasn't managed to find that, camaraderie and consistency? Yeah,
I can't remember who the driver was a couple of weeks ago that performed quite well. Sandman, Ab was saying during the race, Sandman might be making a push to have a new teammate, and I think there was a slight sort of comment or two in the Discord after about it. But again, the advantage is in how long Danger David and D Perez have been racing together. I mean, was that genuine when you said they've been racing together longer than we've known each other?
Yeah, no, Danger David said that these two have driven together for, nigh on maybe even over a decade now.
Wow, yeah.
A long time they've been driving together as teammates in plenty of online leagues as well.
Yeah, how can you compete with that?
Well, with great difficulty, evidently.
Nature, won't it, in terms of approaches, styles, strategies, everything like that. Don't even think about it.
Yeah, and they both seem to be quite active as well. So they're both always there or thereabouts, and they're both always, here for the races and quite competitive. So I'll ask you, whilst we wait for the drivers to take their places on the grid, for your prediction of a podium.
Podium. Hang on.
We can wait for that as we are underway. The race is getting underway for us, and it's a quick start from Truckster going up onto the inside of VSM Sandman. Going into turn 1, it does look like he's got the lead, as well as Sandman's gone wide. Sandman has rejoined a little bit wide, but it looks like Truckster may just have the lead as Sandman manages to take it back off of him heading into turn 3. It's all happening at the front, as I think you've seen. Yep, Evo's spun, which has allowed Danger David to move up into third place as Sandman keeps the lead from Trugster just behind him. But an excellent start from the Alpha Tower. He nearly took first place from the current defending champion. So it is Sandman who holds the lead. Trugster just behind him. Danger David in third place. Then it is the 2 Alpha Romeo sitting fourth and fifth place at the moment. There you go. D. Perez has fallen down to 10th place, though I'm not quite sure just what happened there. Skin, I'll ask you about that in just a moment as we see him starting to make his way back up the group with Sekulovic making his way back down into 12th place at the expense. He's allowed Frankie, Petrokaspi and Tarkan Gino to get past him a little bit further down. We do stay on board at the moment with VSM Saman. It is close between him and Trugster, still within the 1 second difference, as Danger David is closing the gap just behind them, as that is your top three currently. And I'm not assuming you're going to go with the three that are currently there, but I'll ask you now, who is your expectation for the podium?
Well, I was going to say Sandman, Evo, Danger David, but after that spin at the start, Evo's got a bit of a task on her hands now because, just spun on that corner. It's a dodgy corner. At the best of times, you catch it slightly wrong and you're spinning into the grass, and that's exactly what happened. Now finds himself in 14th after that fantastic qualifying performance. But Sandman 1.3 seconds ahead of Trugster, and then Danger David 1.5 seconds behind Trugster for that second spot. Just on board with Toxic, who's about 6/10 behind Danger David, making a bit of a push to get that podium spot. And looking up and down the grid, there's a little bit of space between a few people. I'm just on board now with Evo. Probably stay on board with him now for the next lap or so, just to see. He's got a bit of a cluster in front of him. He's right up the arse of Tarkin Gino in the Alpine, and then his teammate Skid Solo in 12th. Be interesting to see if that turns into a battle, or if Skid Solo, knowing what his teammate's capable of in his recent performance, lets him pass without too much of a challenge. But we'll see. He's got to get past the Alpine first, and he's just gone wide, which now means he's got an extra 4 or 5 tenths to make up.
Well, I'm on board with Tobalenzen at the moment, who's currently in 6th place, and he's knocking on the door of 5th, where Pleasant Snake and his teammate Toxic, just ahead of him, are currently occupying. And I'm just keeping an eye on this first corner, because you've got the first corner, which is a right-hander, but then the slight right that follows after it, a lot of cars are being caught out and going wide, and it happened again there to Tobalenzen. He nearly gave up position. In fact, he has, to Herman, who, of course, started at the back of the grid after not taking part in qualifying. And Herman, now in the Williams, moves up into 6th place, and he's on the inside of Pleasant Snake as well. If he can keep that position, he might just gain another one here. Up into 5th place he goes, as it looks like I can see a little bit of rain, which means we might have to look at different strategies that are going to be taking place if this rain continues. But Herman, who started in 20th by lap 3, is now up into 5th place, and he's only 0.3 of a second behind Toxic, and he could get himself into 4th. And what a great start that has been for the Williams driver. His teammate Formula 1 Farah is down in 17th at the moment, but he has had an exceptional start and really capitalised on some of these mistakes that some of the drivers have been making. And he's gone past Toxic as well, out onto the outside of him, going to hold position going into this next corner. Toxic nearly collides with Pleasant Snake, but the two manage to avoid damage, and Herman holds on to 4th place. And now the pursuit of Danger David will start for the Williams driver.
I'd just like to make a formal apology on the record to Herman. I claimed in qualifying that he'd seen the first time that was set and decided that this league wasn't for him, but maybe he actually now he's moved up in second. Maybe he saw that first time that was set, thought this league's going to be easy picking, so just dropped out to give himself a challenge by starting at the back of the grid. So yeah, my apologies. I as Shaq once said, I was not aware of your game.
There you go. Well, he's up into 2nd place at the moment, because we have seen a few pit stops. Trugster, Danger David, Toxic, D. Perez and Quincy have all boxed for intermediate tyres, as this rain looks like it is going to continue. What's interesting for me there is the 2 Red Bulls went back-to-back, and it has led Perez down into 17th place. The separation of him and Danger David is now just Toxic, and is around about 13 seconds between the two. So I think that may have cost Perez more than the Red Bulls will have liked. Would it really have been worth doing that, or would it have made more sense maybe just to separate the pit stops a little bit? They were quite close when you think about it.
Yeah, maybe so, but this rain is coming fast. There's a little bit of a wobble there. Pleasant Snake So maybe it was a case of just get in, get the tyres. We don't want to cause any issues. So yeah, you just eliminate him risk, I think, by doing what they did, which is fair enough. Sandman just going into the pits now, a bit later than everyone. We'll see if that lap there on slick tyres has cost him any time once everyone else comes back round, as he just has Inters put on now and is on his way back out.
Well, Herman has gone from rags to riches, started in 20th place, is now currently the race leader, but is out on soft tyres. So a lot of these cars have boxed for the intermediates. I'm not quite sure at what point you find out that it is going to become intermediate weather, but no start of DRS leads me to believe that the sensible thing is to get on intermediate sooner rather than later. So at the moment it is Sandman still the race leader when Tobelenzen, Pleasant Snake and Herman all pit. Trugster followed by Danger David, so your front three are as they were. And if anything, I think D. Perez, who is now down in 11th place, has got a bit of work on his hands to try and catch up with some of the other drivers after boxing at the same time as his teammate, as we see a penalty for Tobelenzen for multiple warnings, and I think that might be weather related. So with this rain obviously coming down heavy, it's going to force these drivers to, brake a little bit sooner, lose a little bit of time, or risk pushing on. And as we saw there, as we're on board at the moment with Herman, as we've just had confirmation at the top, DRS has now been disabled. There will be no DRS, which means now's probably the best time to get yourself onto intermediate tyres if you haven't already. And I think that's exactly what we're going to see from Herman. The race leader is going to pit, and we're going to see just where he comes out and see if staying out that extra couple of laps has worked in his favour on Danger David. So we are going to jump on board with Danger David in 6th place as he's coming around the final few corners now onto the pit straight. He's got Trugster just in front of him as well. Less than a second separates the two of them as he goes round onto the outside. And it is VSM Sandman taking back first place. And it might actually have worked out in Herman's favour here. He's just missed out on third place with Danger David, but I think he's actually closed the gap on the current championship leader as he goes round into turn 1 on the fresher intermediate tyres. So your top 5 are currently VSM Sandman, Trugster, Danger David, Herman, and then Toxic. So he's still got the lead over the 2 Alfa Romeos as well. And Sir Ibo is the final one to pit from the soft tyres onto the intermediate. So the intermediate tyres, at this point we now know that there is no requirement to go back onto any slick tyres, any soft tyres or medium or hard. If required, they can always jump onto wet tyres if this rain does continue for the next 27 laps. But as it stands, it's VSM Sandman who is the race leader. Let's have a look at some of the places where we have got drivers quite close to each other. We might not see as many overtaking opportunities as we will people sliding off of the track, as we've just seen as we joined Formula 1 Barra, as he cruises his way past Peter Casby, who slid off the track. And we can now join D. Perez, who is just behind Ivor, who of course started this race in 2nd place, and Frankie 1811. So everybody's pitted, and it looks like the top 3 are going to remain the exact same. Herman now 2.1 seconds behind Danger David, who seems to have found a bit more confidence in those intermediate tyres. It's weird, isn't it, how some drivers are better suited to the wet weather and taking those extra risks, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all about control. I think, again, we can only really relate it to when we've played the game, but historically I've always been stronger in the wet races. And I think you can afford to take a little bit of a risk. I think naturally you become a little bit more cautious, wonder about where your braking points are, what contact you make with apexes. But I do think it pays off to still be mildly aggressive in the rain. And there's a bit of an incident there between Ivor and Frankie 1811. They were neck and neck going into a corner. I'm on board with D. Perez, so just a little bit behind. Sandman does have a time penalty, but 6 seconds ahead at the moment. It shouldn't make too much of a difference. But Ivor did look like he was going to get that 10th spot. But he's got to start making up all the hard work that he's just undone there with that one. But looking up and down the grid, there's not really too much at the moment. You mentioned yourself, the amount of overtaking opportunities might reduce over the next few laps while this rain settles in. But at the moment, there's not really anyone that's close to overtaking. So Yeah, rain does look like it's not going to be going anywhere for a while either, and potentially could get heavier. So you mentioned no more pit stops. We could see that scenario where drivers end up having to go on wets. Nice little battle there between Formula One Farah and D Perez, as D Perez drops down to 13th, and Truckster is going into the pits. Maybe a little bit of contact, I'm not sure. Maybe struggling on the intermediates. Let's have a look. Going into the pits now. Is it just a change of tyres? Is it a change of front wing? Yeah, it's a change of front wing. So some damage somewhere there as he starts to fall down the grid. Just leaving the pit now in 15th place. But yeah, what do you think to Herman's performance so far? Has pitted, got on the intermediates, obviously had the potential technical issues in qualifying and is up to second within the first 8 laps. As Danger David, very, 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 very close to losing complete control of the car there, and was probably going to fly in the wall if he'd not regained control. So fantastic bit of driving there, not for the reasons you'd usually speak about, but yeah, Danger David now drops 3.5 seconds behind Herman after. Well, could have been a lot worse there. It looked like his car just kicked out of nowhere. But yeah, Herman up into second spot after not being able to set a qualifying lap. What a statement that is.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the time that you've told me there that there's been a pit stop for Truckster, Herman has gained almost a second on VSM Sandman. So he's starting to close the gap on the race leader at the moment. And Sandman, of course, has a 3-second time penalty now for exceeding track limits on multiple occasions. And I suppose, like we've already said, in this wet weather, the track limit still remains the same rule, doesn't it? You still can't exceed those same limits. And the weather isn't really taken into account. So on the slightly newer, fresher intermediate tyres, Herman is starting to close the gap. And of course, he only needs to gain 4 more seconds on Sandman, and that could really change the momentum swing and maybe force a few more risks into Sandman. So as it stands at the moment, nothing to worry about. But if he looks through his wind mirror, he will be able to see that Herman is gaining valuable ground on him. Also, we've seen a switch of places in the Alfa Romeos. Pleasant Snake moves up into 4th place. Toxic CZ10 currently sat in 5th place at the moment.
Flying round.
I'll jump on board with him at the moment as Pleasant Snake gets a penalty there for multiple warnings. Maybe was that a bit of the defending that he just did that maybe cost him there?
I think he just went a bit wide on the corner. Like you said, they were neck and neck. RS came absolutely flying round to overtake Toxic. Didn't look like he had the opportunity to get the move on Pleasant Snake as well. I just think with the weather, he might have exceeded the track limits one too many times there. I don't think there was any contact or anything like that. But yeah, there's a few time penalties at the moment. Sandman's pitting. What do we think there? Serving the time penalty, or well, something's there.
Can't serve the time penalty. It's only 3 seconds. You can't serve a 3-second time penalty, but he's changed onto wets. So too is the McLaren of Veriduco. So maybe he's had the foresight to go in there early, get onto those wet tyres, and prepare himself for this rain, because this rain doesn't look like it's going anywhere. We've got 23 more laps of it, but the race leader is once again Herman, and he's now got a 5-second lead over Danger David, and VSM Salmon has fallen down into 7th place at the moment. So it's all about how much you can hold these tyres on for, isn't it, on the intermediates? And I think that the lifespan of them is normally around about 14 laps. So the fact he's had to pit after around about 5 laps is probably down to more of a strategic decision to go onto the wet tyres, as he's gone past Tobelenzen just then as well. But yeah, we've got penalties coming in thick and fast for different drivers at the moment as well, as we'll jump on board with VSM Sandman, as he is also just behind Toxic, while still trying to defend 6th place from Tobelenzen, who, of course, in his second race last week, managed to get himself onto a podium finish as well. So we are starting to see much more competition from these drivers, that it's no longer just a 2-driver race. We saw last season, of course, that it was mainly Danger David and VSM Sandman swapping and changing, wasn't it? And whilst they are the 2 leaders at the moment, last week we saw Evor win. The week before that it was the McLaren win. You know, we've started to see Perez is starting to get involved a little bit more. You saw Evor as well, like I said, and you know, you've got more drivers now becoming a bit more competitive. Herman is the current race leader, holds, what's that, about 17? No, that's 18, 19 seconds ahead of BSM Sandman in 5th place as it stands at the moment. And he's the current race leader on intermediate. So this could really have been a poor decision from Sandman if he continues to lose speed and lose time on the current race leader. especially with how much Herman was starting to gain. Do you think maybe it was a bit of a panic from Sandman?
Maybe, but again, the rain isn't stopping, is it? So, and he's only dropped down into 5th place. So you've got to assume now if everyone else starts to make that move, because there's a lot of drivers that are a bit wobbly, not looking too confident in this weather. So maybe he's just had a bit of foresight to get on the right tyre now and avoid all the traffic when everyone else decides to do the same thing at some point. But yeah, Frankie just gets a 3-second time penalty for corner quitting. As someone spun there. Evo spun in sector 2.
Not the first time, is it? Spun a little bit earlier as well, didn't he, at the race start?
No, yeah, that's so right, and that's what I mean. That drivers are struggling with the conditions, and the rain really does mix it up. It throws strategies out the window. Just back on board with D Perez now. I'm just trying to look up and down the grid as to where there's potential for overtaking. And there's not one single driver that's less than, actually, scratch that now, Formula 1 Farah is the only driver, and he's not anymore, so as it stands, there are no drivers within half a second of the driver in front, as D Perez now gets a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. Drivers really struggling here as Quincy overtakes Formula 1 Farah, really good inside there. Really good on the inside, looking to defend it. He's had to move out of the way. Formula Farah looking now to get his position back, which he does. Very clean driving there from the lads. Truckster just behind that group now. Perfect opportunity if DRS was available. Quincy goes wide, allows Truckster through, which now means there is a 3-way push for that 13th spot, or 12th spot should I say, going into the first corner. As Formula 1 Farah goes very wide, Quincy's back of his car spits out. Truckster moves up into 12th. Good little pack here between 14th and 11th. Quincy really struggling with the conditions here, fighting with his wheel. I'm sure that feedback will be kicking in, no doubt. As no danger, David, the latest driver to get a 3-second time penalty. Herman, currently from the back of the grid, leads the race. No time penalties. Just over a third of the way through the race, as Quincy now drops a little bit behind that pack that we are on board watching with, as struggle with the conditions.
Wow, that's a bit of a change there. I don't know if there's any damage as a result of that. Sorry to interrupt. I've been on board with Frankie 1811 while you've been giving us that commentary just a couple of corners ago where you said that it might have been Truckster that went wide. We saw the exact same thing with Skid Solo, and Frankie 1811 just went straight past him, but now he seems to be struggling for grip. And just a moment ago, he caught onto the back of Toxic. And whilst he caught onto the back of Toxic, they both lost a little bit of control of their cars. It allowed Skid Solo to regain that sort of advantage. They are still very close. It doesn't look like anyone's going to have to go into the pits. No, they're all staying out at the moment, or at least those 3 drivers are staying out at the moment, as VSM Sandman's gone back in onto intermediate tyres, which means all 3 of those drivers have now moved up a position, and VSM Sandman has dropped down into 10th place. So do you think maybe it was a bit of a panic moving on to those wet tyres, and it was maybe a bit unnecessary that now, look, he's dropped himself down into what is currently 13th place from a quite comfortable lead?
Yeah, it's be interesting to get the reasoning after the race, definitely, because from being in a comfortable position to making a move that he didn't need to make in hindsight, it has now cost him, like I say. But look, there is a very, very, very long time left in this race, and if there's one person that can get from 13th up until, let's say, a podium spot, it certainly is Sandman. Just on board now with Skid Solo in 8th place. Again, a tiny bit of a cluster forming in the quest to gain sort of 2 or 3 positions. But as it stands, there's not really too much going on in terms of side-by-side racing. So I'll stick on board for a moment. Skid Solo, the driver closest to the driver in front, 6/10 behind Toxic in 7th.
Well, I've just stayed on board with Skid Solo whilst you're bringing us through that, and VSM Sandman gets himself another 3-second time penalty. So at the moment that's sat at 6 seconds, and after not finishing the race last week, now a 6-second time penalty, falling from 1st to 13th. I mean, first of all, let's look at where D Perez is in 12th place. He's still on intermediate tyres. Yep, they are quite... that was nearly a collision there as Toxic made his way out into the pit. So I thought there was going to be a collision between him and Skid Solo, but Toxic's gone into the pit. Skid Solo takes 7th place. But yeah, this is a position where, D. Perez, had he not just pitted, had he not just lost that position to Sandman anyway, he could have actually held him up, could have actually done his teammate a huge favour there, with Danger David up in 2nd place. I know there's quite a distance between the two of them at the moment, but we've already seen throughout this race, there we go. D. Perez just managed to avoid that, but that was Formula 1 Farah taking the damage into the wall. We've got a yellow flag.
No, it was a collision between Formula 1 Farah and VSM Sandman. Farah went very, very wide, and then, to be honest, just from the view which was on board with D. Perez, looked like it was a bit of carelessness coming back onto the track and went into the side of Sandman. So, that'll definitely be another pit. But these conditions now continue to get worse, continue to get wetter. And the way it's going, it cannot be too long until a lot of drivers are putting the wets on, unless we get
Perez has gone wide.
We now have the red flag in the game. I don't know if that's just when it comes to crashes or... in real life we would get it when there's rain, but a lot of drivers are struggling and not on the right tyres as it stands, so...
It can be weather related if the rain becomes too much, but I think they have to go on to wets before they decide to bring out a red flag, so it's probably unlikely in this circumstance, but the yellow flag's gone away, which means they've managed to clean up the mess that was brought to us by Formula 1 Farah in his collision with VSM Sandman. We are on board with D. Perez at the moment in 10th place. We'll just jump on board with Sandman. The damage can't have been too bad for him, as he's moved himself up into 7th place and not needed to pit again, as Truxter gets another 3-second time penalty, with Tobalenzen, RSO121, and now D. Perez all pitting. 2 of those have gone onto wets. We'll find out what D. Perez opts to do in just a moment's time. He's gone on to wets as well, so do you think now it might have been the time to move on to wets? This has got to be frustrating from a Ferrari perspective. You've moved on to wets a bit too early, you've then gone straight back onto intermediates. Maybe it's just a little bit, trigger happy and jumping straight to the opportunity instead of, playing the patient game and just seeing where it takes you. I mean, granted, if Herman had caught him, he may have been able to overtake him. However, he could still have had that opportunity to defend there. He could still have been in second place at that point, couldn't he?
Yeah, definitely, mate. It's like I said, we can only get his thoughts on that because he made that decision. You mentioned there trigger happy. He was very quick to make the decision and probably even quicker to change his mind and change them back to intermediates. But there was clearly some logic there at the time. But again, full credit to him. And look, you look at that leaderboard at the minute. Every single driver between 2nd and 8th place has a time penalty. And a couple are now pitting. Danger David in the pits, followed by Pleasant Snake. And it looks like it is wet tyres. It is. Danger David has made the move. The first driver after Sandman, which will now look like a potential cluster of drivers pitting, moving on to those wet tyres as the conditions continue to get worse on the track. Truxter flying around and has gone very wide. Yeah, I can see a lot of drivers in the next 2 or 3 laps moving on to the wets. They're really struggling going into a corner at the end of a high-speed straight.
I haven't heard you say the word cluster ever before, and now you've said it about 4 times in the space of 16 laps. I'm assuming that's word of the day toilet paper that you've got in your house at the moment. But yes, you're absolutely right. A lot of these drivers are moving in for the wet tyres as it stands, and I think VSM Sandman's going to have to do that at some point. His Truxter's gone wide again, and Frankie's just kind of held up VSM Sandman at that point and done his teammate a favour to allow him to continue in 3rd place. So the Alpha Tower is working quite nicely in unison, and then of course VSM Sandman now in 5th place, who's done very well, don't forget, to make his way up from 13th place into 5th, so the pace is still there with the Ferrari. It's just a case of if these are the right tyres to take them to the end, as Herman has now pitted, and depending on how long this pit stop could take, I think he is going to come back out in 1st place, but we'll see as Danger David's making his way around the last couple of corners. Heading in round to the pit straight. I think it is going to be Herman. I think he's on his way out now, isn't he? So yeah, he's going to have quite a comfortable lead here at the moment. I don't think Danger David's going to be able to close that too much. and it is the wet tyres that he's opted to go for as well. So what started out as slick tyres has now gone all the way through the stages to get us to the wet tyres. We are currently watching the drivers make their way around this Portuguese track on, as Danger David now has a gap of 9 seconds, or 8.5 seconds, should I say, to the race leader, and that is only shortening as they start to make their way through the first sector. Danger David did actually gain 3 seconds on Herman prior to his pit stop as well, so there is still chance that he could be battling with the Williams for first step of the podium by the end of this race. But Trugster, VSM Sandman, Frankie 1811 have opted to stay out here at the moment on these intermediate tyres, as we are on board with Trugster, as VSM Sandman goes up onto the inside of him, into the corner, says thank you very much, and takes third place off of him, but goes wide on the next corner, and I think that's gifted it back to Trugster, and it has done. Trugster holds third place after a quick two corners overtake. Sandman's gone again onto the inside, he's going to hold position. And I think it looked very close there to Trugster going off, but he's managed to stay on the track and keep third position as his own, as the next corner's gone a little bit wide, but Sandman's had to heel a little bit, and it has allowed Trugster to hold third place. But some excellent battling going on at the moment in the battle for third place, but I think Sandman this time has just had too much pace for him, gone up the inside, taken it, and now he's defending that position from the AlphaTauri. So I think a bit of a risk there from Sandman, but he's made it, and he's made third place his very much own at the moment. But it's just how long he's going to last before he's going to have to pit back onto the wet tyres as well. I think, again, this is another 14 lap stint in wet tyres, so it all depends at the moment how long he can keep these intermediates going for before he pits onto them wets. But I think he's trying to set himself up so that his pit stop will last him through to the end of the race, even if other people do need to consider changing again. So I can probably see why the strategy is there for him at the moment. But Trugster has fallen down into 5th place at the moment, as the wet tyres of Pleasant Snake have too much grip and too much speed on them for the two AlphaTauris. So back to almost where they started, having started in 7th and 8th place, but still sat together. We do only have a couple of cars left on intermediates. You talk us through it.
Just again, mate, I don't want to say the C word, not that one or that one. The one that you don't like me saying. Just a bit of a spin, mate. Still on intermediates. Yeah, just I was keeping an eye on things there. Drivers are struggling on the intermediate, so depending on how this rain changes, again, the rain could stop. The rain could stop in 5 or 6 laps, and then all of a sudden the track starts to get drier, and when do you think about getting on slicks? So, yeah, it's all over the place. I mean, you look at the right-hand side of the leaderboard there, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 drivers currently with a time penalty. As Evo gets an additional 3 seconds. So, yeah, the drivers are really struggling today. It's 12 drivers, sorry, out of 19 with a time penalty, which is what, around 60%. So, yeah. Really, really tough day for the drivers so far, but we're only just over halfway round, so plenty of time to go.
There we go. Well, the two Alpine that we haven't really heard much of today, have we? Talking Gino and Racing Wheel sat at the back.
Lapped.
I know. Yeah, they're getting lapped, and we normally see Racing Wheel a little bit higher up. So same with Cerebro, to be fair, as well. Some of the mainstays of the All Assist Soft League currently sat towards the back end of the grid as we head in towards the final 13 laps of the race. The race leader is currently Herman, who has gone from 20th into 1st. Danger David has set himself around about the 8-second mark as Frankie just loses position to RS0121 there. We'll jump on board with the Pleasant Snake as he's closing the gap on VSM Sandman on his wet tyres. VSM Sandman, of course, still out there on the intermediates at the moment. His 4th set of tyres. He's had 3 pit stops in a 19-lap race so far, which is quite an effort to go through, I think, with considering none of it has come from damage. But with 6-second time penalty, I'd like to think that maybe 5 seconds of that can be served, should he choose to, when he goes into pit, to move back onto the wet tyres, which I assume is the strategy for all those that are out there on intermediate. Sure, they're not going to wait and see if it's a case of moving back onto slick tyres, because this rain doesn't look like it's going anywhere, does it?
No, it doesn't. I was just trying to get a bit of a feel there. On board with Pleasant Snake, and yeah, I was trying to get a feel there of if it was slowing down at all, and yeah, it's not going anywhere in terms of the rate that it's coming down for at least 5 laps, I'd say, and then at that point it might still be there for the whole race, as Tark and Gino just lapped again gets a 3-second time penalty back of the grid. A terrible race. Really struggled with the conditions. As Pleasant Snake looks to make a move on Sandman, and it's not something that you see happen too often. Maybe if there is any kryptonite in this league, it is rain for Sandman. Drops down to 4th. It's not very often. As Pleasant Snake spins, just recovers, managed to hold on for that final podium spot. But yeah, how many times can we say we've seen Sandman overtaken in all the races that we've watched? It's not very often at all. So Pleasant Snake, great driving, taking advantage, and just managed to hold on by skin of his teeth to that spot there after going into that corner and sliding around it, basically.
I think Sandman gave him a little bit too much respect when he had that little spin there as well, and he kind of, it might have been just because of, it might have just been because of the weather that he slowed things down and allowed him to, regain composure. But he obviously didn't want to risk getting a bit of a collision, did he, at the same time? But yeah, those intermediate tyres now look ready for retirement. Get the wet tyres on, last 13 laps. I think he'd be able to make them last the full race. Stop it. The remainder of the race. But yeah, at the moment in 4th place, he's only moving backwards, isn't he? He's lost pace on that he got on Danger David. He's now losing pace on Pleasant Snake as well. And I do feel a little bit for these at the back of the grid. Tark and Gino, of course, now on a DNF. Those time penalties have been from moving to the side through a blue flag. So they've moved aside and they've been given time penalties. So I'm not quite sure what to make of those. But yeah, at the moment he's retired. So we've got a DNF for Tark and Gino and a DNF for Veriduco. As round we go with Pleasant Snake and VSM Sandman once again choosing not to pit. At what point, if you're in the paddock at the moment, I was going to say dugout, if you're in the paddock at the moment, at what point do you say, let's get on these wet tyres now, let's push for this?
If I was in the dugout, mate, I'd be looking at, you've got 14 laps left, about 20 minutes left in game. I'd be looking at bringing Joe Quigley on, mate, as a bit of an option. No, well, it's been a torrid race, hasn't it? Talking Gino, like you said, just got a DNF for his 50th time penalty. There's only Herman in 1st, RS in 5th, and Peter Caspi in 13th without a time penalty. The majority of the drivers have got multiple time penalties. Yeah, it's just been a real struggle today. But still a long time to go and still a lot of rain coming down. Anything could happen. That top 3 could change. It only takes one spin. That sort of 4th to 10th spots, they could change quite easily. There's nobody in a position of overtaking at the moment, but it only takes 1 or 2 drivers taking a bit of a spin and then taking a couple of corners to get back on track to really mix it up. But yeah, the top 5, the top 6 really comfortable gaps between each of the drivers.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right with the strategy there, because he's now 5 seconds behind Pleasant Snake. Is it just he might just be taking the approach of do what you can, damage limitations, so to speak, or hope that some might have to repit and revisit it at that point. 9 laps old intermediate tyres, and you're losing pace on cars in and around you. There's going to be a point where it just becomes too much and he's going to be slipping and sliding. I've just jumped on board with Frankie as Tobelenzen was close to him as well, but Tobelenzen's kind of got past him now and he's close to Trugster. He was up in 6th place from absolutely nowhere. You lose track of some of these drivers, don't you, when they move down and everyone starts pitting, and you realise that some of these have actually made their way back up. Of course, Trugster had quite a strong start to the race. Starting, I think it was in 3rd place as well. Evo starting in 2nd, he's back up into 9th place at the moment. But Tobelenzen in the wet tyres, now about half a second behind Trugster in the AlphaTauri. Going through the corner, just following him around it at the moment. There's not too many risks being taken, and I think some of these drivers are just happy to do that. And I mean, it makes things a bit difficult from our side of things to try and inject the excitement into what is currently a straightforward race for a lot of these drivers. But I guess that's what we're here for, isn't it? As we see Herman pitting. Herman is pitting. Here we go. It looks like the rain may have actually slowed down ever so slightly, but while I'm on board with Herman heading into the pits, Danger David has now taken the lead. He's pitted and he's gone back onto intermediate tyres. So, let's see where this takes us now. VSM Sandman anticipating that the rain would slow down and maybe taking the hit a little bit there. But our new race leader for the first time today is Danger David in the Red Bull on the wet tyres. But Herman boxed for intermediate tyres with 10 laps left to go. And see, shall the dominoes fall after him as he's come out and started sliding a little bit as well. He needs to get some heat into those tyres. He's come out just ahead of Pleasant Snake, who is still out there on the wet tyres at the moment. VSM Salmon in 4th place. RSO121 now in 5th place. And we'll jump back on board with Tobelenzen, who is 8/10 and now getting closer to Trugster as well. And I think that is the closest we've got, other than Pleasant Snake with Herman. That is the closest we've got to any overtakes being made. We'll know when it gets to the point of moving on to slick tyres because DRS will be re-enabled, but I highly doubt that's going to happen in the next 10 laps. I don't think I've really seen it in that short of a turnover on a 50% race where the rain can go from wets to slicks in the space of 10 laps. But we saw it in the reverse, so I suppose anything can happen.
Yes, mate. If it can happen one way, it can certainly happen the other way just as much. So, long time to go.
Well, Frankie 1811 just takes another 3-second time penalty. He's sat down in 8th place at the moment on intermediate tyres that have lasted him so far 18 laps. So I'd expect any time soon him to be considering going back into the pits. We'll just have a look at some of the time penalties that are out there at the moment so we can see just where everyone is with these. The longest we've got at the moment is Frankie 1811. Oh no, it's Formula 1 Fire on a 17-second time penalty in 16th place. So the Williams is enjoying the aquaplaning just as much as we're enjoying watching it. Then there's Sekulovic in the McLaren on 10 seconds. You've got Frankie 1811 in 8th place on 9 seconds. You've got Truxer on 8. VSM Sandman and Tobelenzen on 6. Then you've got multiple drivers: Toxic, Quincy, Perez, Skid Solo, Ivor, RSO121, Pleasant Snake and Danger David all on 3 seconds. So credit to Herman. Not only has he gone from 20th to what now 2nd, he's also not had a time penalty throughout the course of this race as well.
So. Yeah, that's some credit. I think as it stands, regardless of what happens, in with a great shout, if not the current favourite for that driver of the day vote. Yeah,
I think as it stands, he's got my vote unless something spectacular happens from here. But we are still on board with Tobelenzen as he is continuing to try and close this gap on Trugster. Herman has now gained a nearly 6-second lead on Pleasant Snake, as it does look like it is intermediate tyres that are the favoured option. I mean, from Sandman's perspective, do you repit? Do you stick with these for the next 9 laps?
Yeah, the tyres last, don't they? I think it just comes down to what the rain does. As we've said there, Herman's made a decision to come in a little bit earlier. The rain does look like it has slowed down a little bit. So again, very much in the position we were sort of, I think, the 4 or 5 laps ago when I said it was how long it would last. We've got flags everywhere here. Evo, have a look. Evo spun.
Tobelenzen's doing the same as well. He's managed to regain composure, but he slid a little bit. Sorry, I interrupted you there. Pleasant Snake's now boxed onto the intermediate tyres, which moves VSM Salmon up into 3rd place. I mean, we say that Herman should get driver of the day, which is fair because, of course, moving up from 20th to 2nd place. But Sandman has been very much snakes and ladders throughout this, hasn't he? And he's up in 3rd place now.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Just on board with, you said snakes and ladders, and it threw me off a bit because I was just going on board with Pleasant Snake. Time penalties are an absolute killer today, aren't they? Even to tell you what, the time penalties could throw out huge grid changes here, if nothing else.
Yeah, for everybody except for Herman, who is going to be sat comfortably as it stands in 2nd place, but he's gained 5 seconds on Danger David in the space of the last lap as well. So we'll just jump on board with Danger David, see if he's heading into the pits. He's going to head into the pits onto the intermediate tyres. So we'll jump on board with Sandman. I think he will come out in 2nd place ahead of BSM Sandman, but we'll jump on board with him now just to see how close that is going to be when he makes his way out of the pits exit. Sandman now making his way round onto the pit straight. Mate, what are you doing?
What?
What are you doing with that noise?
What noise?
You know what you're doing. Heading onto the pit straight now. It's Danger David's on his way out of the pits. Yes. And I think Sandman might just have him going into the first corner. It's going to be very close, and he just gets ahead of him. So Sandman takes second place. Danger David in third as he catches the chicane a little bit there and manages to regain control before going off track. But it is currently Herman back in the lead. Sandman in second. Danger David in third place as it stands at the moment. Trugster makes his way up into fourth. Pleasant Snake in fifth. And RS0121 falls down to sixth place from the pit. So a great response for the Ferrari in the end.
Yeah, definitely. We spoke about the decision to pit and then pit again, and at the moment looks like doing all right. I would obviously and naturally be disappointed to lose that top spot, but sorry, I was just looking there. Racing Wheel gets another time penalty, 3 seconds for multiple warnings, and Danger David isn't letting Sandman get away without another challenge on getting that second spot back. So, yeah, Sandman will be disappointed of dropping down to second, but I think considering the extra pit stop, it's a massive credit to how good he is. The fact that even after that, he's still in second place.
Oh, Truckster's out. Truckster is out from fifth place. He's retired from the session, just waiting to see what's gone. This could change a lot of things, because now VSM Sandman, if he chooses to do so, he has done. He's gone into the pits to maybe go for fresh intermediate tyres. He was maybe hoping for a safety car to come his way, so we could still get 3 laps of some very interesting racing at the front of the grid. Quick change there, and he's back out. And
gap, doesn't it?
It closes the gap, but if you look at how far ahead those front 3 really are at the moment, Herman's still got quite a distance to go before he can get round to the safety car, to be fair. I think Danger David and Sandman are going to actually have to pass the safety car on their way round. Danger David just has, and I think, yeah, Sandman's going to have to do the same thing. As I think it's going to be about 2 laps of racing we might still actually get before this is all said and done.
And, yeah, considering that we probably weren't, other than potential pits, we weren't really looking at much for the last few laps. Safety car stays out for 2 or 3 laps here. It's going to make for a really interesting and exciting 3 or 4 laps. And again, if the weather changes in that time, rain gets worse again, it slows down even more, anything can happen in the next, 15 minutes or so.
There we go. So who do you think? I mean, of course, Sandman's now on fresh intermediates, but Danger David's only 1 lap old. Herman's only 4 laps old. They're still quite new tyres, to be fair, aren't they? So, and then you see Ivor and Perez going out onto the soft tyres. So, a big risk from them, but then maybe they're feeling they've got nothing to lose at this point in the race. That, you know, if by the end of the safety car, the rain's gone, it's just the speed that you get in soft tyres in compared to intermediates is obviously night and day, isn't it? So, you look at it and you think, they're probably going to be your favourites then, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so. But how much has changed in this last... Truckster just thought, fuck it, throw a spanner in it works. So, 6 laps to go? Safety car still out. Yeah, sorry, I'm just having a look at the leaderboard. So I thought there might have been a little bit of an incident there, but I don't think there is. Yeah. I'm just hoping that the rain just completely dries up or gets worse again to bring in tyre changes.
Just to give you a little bit of entertainment in this race. So, as it stands, it's Herman first, Danger David second, Sandman third. However, Sandman with that time penalty, prior to this safety car, prior to these pit stops, you could probably say he's in a very favourable position to hold third place, just considering the gap that was between him and Pleasant Snake at the time, who's just pitted for medium tyres as well. So, had this safety car not happened, I think now that it has happened, it might have just ruined Sandman's race.
Do you
not think? Yeah, because the time penalties.
Considering the fact that maybe so, but on the flip side of that, you've now got the safety car that's going to bring the whole pack together, which now gives him the opportunity to get that that first spot back. And we've seen how dangerous Sandman is when he gets in front, and how quickly he can make up time and build a gap. So, if anything, I think this is potentially the best thing that could have happened for him. It now allows him a potential 3 laps, let's say, as Formula 1 Farrett is out. Potential 3 laps or so at getting that first spot back. There's quite a few pitting here.
Yeah, Danger David's pitting as well. I'm surprised by that one. It's quite a lot going out onto the soft tyres.
No, it's the rain. That's what I'm thinking now. Yeah, they're going on softs. It's still raining.
But have they lost position to me and the others? No, I think they've still managed to hold position. This race is going to finish under the safety car. 'Cause look at the distance for all these cars to try and catch up with them now. This is outrageous. And if Herman pits now, it's too late for him because Danger David and Salmon are both boxed. If Herman pits now, it's too late. Danger David and Salmon will have position. But if he doesn't pit, they've got the tyre advantage. What do you do in Herman's position now? You've got 4 laps left to go, maybe just 2 laps after the safety car's kind of done. You've got the distance to be able to pit and maybe come out in... Oh, you will come out in 3rd place if you pit now from the lead. What do you do at this point?
The thing for me is the track conditions and the current weather still says you should be on an intermediate. It's still raining. The track's still wet. It's not dried up in any way, shape or form. Other than the fact that the rain slowed down slightly from what it was 3 or 4 laps ago. Like I'm still on board with Danger David sliding. So I don't know what I do. The rain is slowing down.
Well,
Go on.
I'm going to jump on board with Herman just to see what his decision is, whether he's going to go into the pits as he's heading around towards that area now. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I'm just looking at some of these drivers that have stayed out on intermediates, but the majority are now out on slick tyres, and it looks like the rain's done. There's no rain.
It stopped.
The rain stopped, so now might just be the right time, to... Well, you're going to have to go into the pits now, aren't you?
It's got to go in now. There's no choice. If it doesn't go in now and the safety car comes in, it's screwed, because everyone behind him, 1, 2, 3... The 3 drivers behind him are on dry tyres. So yeah, I mean, safety car's still not come in, which will be 3 laps to go if it were to go in on this lap.
I mean,
out of nowhere, Sandman could potentially get that top spot back.
The grid is absolutely everywhere. There's nobody's in any sort of order at the moment. I mean, behind the safety car, for some reason, we've got Siribo there. And that makes no sense because he's down in 15th place at the moment. I'm sure it's Siribo that's down there at the moment, is it not? Yeah, it's Siribo that's down there at the moment, and that makes no sense. Surely at this point he's got to overtake. So not only has now he lost the position of 1st place, he's also going to be behind a Haas car that is lapped. So he's now going to have to lap him and then get past Sandman and Danger David. So this task has just got much tougher for Herman. And Sandman, if he gets a very good start here, he could still win this race. And I think that would probably take my vote away from Herman and give it to Sandman as driver of the day. I think that's what's really close between this at the moment.
Just need the safety car to come in, don't we?
Yeah. Normally it's the normal 3 laps, isn't it, that we see on these games where the car stays out. But here you go, it's coming in. Has Herman managed to catch up? He's just managed to catch up with the group. Nobody else has, but why would they care? We've now got Herman hidden just behind Sir Ibo, but Sandman and Danger David that will be kicking off this race for us. Danger David will be the pace setter, as Sir Ibo goes wide to allow Herman to make his way through. That's very nice of him. It is going to be Danger David that's the pace setter that gets things back underway for us as we go past the DRS detection zone in Sector 3. The safety car heads in, which means we are back racing here in Portugal for at least 3 laps left of some hopefully exciting racing coming up into turn one. We've got the three drivers all very, very close towards each other, and DRS could really spell a disaster for one of these drivers. Sandman goes straight up on the inside and takes that almost like child's play to take first place away from Danger David, who still holds second place, but Herman goes up on the inside, takes Danger David and VSM Sandman in one to take the lead away from the Ferrari. Danger David then takes second place back as Sandman goes a little bit slow into turn three, but it is Danger David now getting past Herman again. And this is just going to be chaos, isn't it, for the next three races? But this is what you've been wanting, isn't it, Skin, throughout this? As Sandman this time goes up onto the inside of Herman and takes second place away from him, as Danger David holds on to the lead at the moment. Less than a second separates all three of these drivers as Tobalenzen moves himself up into fourth place. We continue into the end of Sector 1 with Danger David out in the lead at the moment. VSM Sandman just behind him. 0.4 of a second behind him is Herman at the moment as Sandman goes up on towards the inside. Try and holds position in this corner and takes Danger David as well. Danger David now into second place as Herman watches on from third place. He now tries to close the gap on the Red Bull as we go into another quick couple of corners before we go back onto the pit straight. Still no DRS at this point. I don't think we're going to see DRS for any point in this race, and if we do, it will be for the final lap of the race. As now, we've got an excellent view from Suribo down in 16th place at the moment watching these, but it is Sandman that finishes the first lap of the restart out in first place at the moment as Herman will try and close that gap on Danger David, who just looks to be holding up the Williams driver at the moment. Sandman out in the lead. I'm surprised we might actually see some fastest laps going as Herman goes up onto the inside into turn one, should I say, sorry, and takes Danger David as Danger David tries to fight back going into turn two. Manages to keep himself on track as well, as we've seen a couple of cars go wide at that point, but Herman takes second place. Danger David now in third in the Red Bull as VSM Sandman holds on to the lead and now takes that lead to above 1 second. It is still Herman in second place and Danger David, who tries to have a look onto this corner but instead sits back and stays in third place at the moment. 0.4 of a second separates second from third place with a couple of corners coming up now as he again has a look, but he's choosing not to go for it at the moment. As it stands, Herman will be the winner due to the time penalty that VSM Salmon has got, but now he's got a couple of laps to try and make himself around a 5-second lead from Herman. I think that will also leave him down into third place as Danger David will move up into second as it stands at the moment, because everybody behind him has also got a penalty and Herman will be the race leader due to not leaving the track and getting the time penalty for that. But it's 1.7 seconds separates Herman from Sandman as he's just excelled onto the different level that we've seen over the past couple of seasons here on All Assists Off League. And coming in towards the end of the second lap and the start of the final lap, we get to see the race that's going on between Herman and Danger David for second place. It looks like Herman started to gain a bit of a lead from the Red Bull
David
as
just
well.
Went really wide on that corner and it was very strange. He was going right and his car just kicked out left, so I'm not sure what happened there, but yeah, that's why there's a gap all of a sudden between the two.
There we go. As round the corner we've got Danger David going at the moment. Explains why there's been a bit of a drop off there in time, and I think that might spell the difference between Danger David getting second place and remaining in third place at the moment, as we just see Pleasant Snake go up onto the inside of Tobalenzen and takes fourth place away from him. But again, with the time penalties and Sekulovic now getting a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Of all the penalties we've seen, he got one for speeding in the pit lane and he was probably in a rush to finish this race a lap early. So he's retired from 10th place, which will allow everyone to move themselves up ever so slightly, or at least the majority of the drivers in this grid to move up ever so slightly. So we'll jump on board with VSM Salmon as he takes the final couple of corners as what has been a hectic race for him. He started out in pole position with a very impressive time in qualifying. He made some questionable choices with the pit stop strategies, but the safety car ultimately saved him. It's back on the top step of the podium for the Ferrari, and it is back on the top step of the podium for VSM Sandman. This race has had its ups and downs for him, but he's made it over the checkered flag, and it is Herman that will take that away from him due to the time penalty. Danger David, despite his time penalties, will remain in third place. Pleasant Snake in the Alfa Romeo will sit in fourth. Tobalenzen in the Haas will take fifth place in the end as well. We will jump on board now with Ivor 32. Had a very good win last week in Canada. Had a very good qualifying session this week in Portugal, but the time penalties and a slip straight away from the start of the race sees him him fall down into 6th place, and that's where he'll finish this race. Frankie 1811 in the AlphaTauri will then take up 7th place, followed by D. Perez, the Red Bull, in 8th place. Suribo will finish in 15th because of the checkered flag, and him being lapped means he won't get to finish his final lap of the race. RS0121 in the Mercedes will take 9th place as well. We'll jump on board with Peter Caspi, who looked like he was starting to spin on that final corner there, but he'll be happy to see the end of this race, and he'll cross the line with his Ferrari teammate in 2nd place. He'll get 10th place in the end and some extra points in the Constructors' Championship. Toxic will follow them over the line, and Quincy will finish off the Mercedes duo with RS0121 in 9th place. Skid Solo in the Aston Martin will then finish us off in 13th place, and that will conclude that race. So Skin, it's been a bit of a hectic race, a bit steady in parts, but we can't fault the end.
Not at all, mate. I mean, the weather there. Look at the conditions as the drivers have crossed the finish line there. Really sunny. You never would have known that the rain that there was there. What, 10 minutes ago? So started dry, got wet, got very wet, started to calm down, and then ended up in conditions like that. Full credit to Herman. Again, I'll put on record and apologise for my comment after leaving the qualifying. What a performance. And yeah, I can't see anyone else getting a vote for driver of the day, can you? Yeah,
amazingly. I mean, you said that about Herman. I know because he's gone from 20th to 1st, he'll probably win it, but you know, I'm going to find it very difficult not to give it to VSM Sandman, or to at least give a lot of credit to VSM Sandman. I think he's put in a phenomenal race. You know, he's fallen to the back. He's made maybe some questionable strategy decisions, but he's finished with the fastest lap. He's had a time penalty. He did finish the race in 1st place, but obviously dropped down into 2nd because of those time penalties. I think it's harsh not to give him at least an honorary mention. But I think you're right, Herman's going to get it. But just to spread it out a little bit, I'm going to back VSM Sandman as mine there.
Are you doing that just to be different, or because you think that's right?
Because I think that's right. I think Sandman's had an excellent race on the track. I think whatever's gone off in the paddock that's led to those strange decisions is what's happened. But to have 5 pit stops and finish the race in 1st place, albeit with a time penalty that dropped him down to 2nd, I think that actually beats the record as well. I think that beats the record for what...
Jenson Button in Canada.
Jenson Button, it was in Canada, wasn't it? Jenson Button in Canada. But I'll tell you what, Skin, I'll let you have your little bit of a moment here, because we're joined now by the race winner. So first of all, I'll say congratulations. Congratulations first of all to Herman on what has been a very entertaining start to your time in the All Assist Soft League.
Yeah. Thank you very much. What a nice welcome to this league, huh?
Well, they've certainly kept you on your toes, of course, with VSM Sandman and Danger David taking you very much to the end.
Yeah, obviously. The time penalties obviously played in my hand, but regarding the safety car and the late drying up of the track, I was quite worried at the start of the safety car phase, but still managed to pull through. Only 2 warnings compared to these guys, so yeah, I take that W.
Yeah, you got the warnings, but at the same time, there was no time penalty given to you there, of course. You were one of the only drivers to finish that race without a time penalty. Ultimately made the difference between you finishing on maybe the 2nd or 3rd step of the podium and, of course, taking the race win. But we'll start with your first pit stop strategy. Of course, the first thing you did was you pitted onto the intermediate tyres, but a little bit later than everyone else. What was the thought process with staying out a little bit longer on the slicks?
The track didn't feel quite ready yet. Obviously, the lap I went in was quite a bit too late. I feel like the DS was disabled on that lap. So I felt like, okay, let's keep that going, maybe extend a bit. And of course, the traffic is also something you have to keep in mind, especially with that turn 1 and cold tires sometimes as well. So I was thinking, okay, if these guys in front of me get stuck a bit, then I could gain on that. And position-wise, I did, I think, so jumped a few places even there to P4. So, yeah, would have preferred a lap earlier, and I have to be honest, but yeah, it just worked out fine, I guess. Like, it's okay.
Well, ultimately, it's top step of the podium for you. So, Herman, congratulations and thanks for joining us. After the race, we will move things on because we've got quite a few people wanting to talk to us today, and we'll move across now to Third place in the on the podium, of course, Danger David. So you said at the beginning, this is the question I've got to ask you first of all, because we said at the very beginning, you said to me that it's about a team this year, about Red Bull winning it together, and you're currently leading the Drivers' Championship. Red Bull are currently leading the Constructors' Championship. I've got to ask you, was it a mind game to begin with, or was it genuine, this is all about the team?
It's all about the team, mate. The thing is, the Drivers' Championship, it's going to the death now with Sandman, but the team game is what's important. We've never had a Constructors win with Red Bull, me and Perez, so that's the prime focus.
Yeah, and it has been difficult for you throughout the course of the season. Of course, AMS Johnsy at one point looked like he was going to start dominating things and making things tough for both you and VSM Sandman. Now, of course, we've got the introduction of Herman as well, which could spice things up a little bit towards next season as well. But at the moment, it does seem to be you and VSM Sandman. What's your thoughts process heading into these sort of race then with the strategy that you're going in with Perez at the moment?
I think the next race we have to give it to Sandman, so I'm going to go to it. I'm going to give it everything I can, try and get the drivers. As it stands right now, as far as I'm aware, as long as I finish within a position or two positions of Sandman, the Drivers' Championship's mine. But ultimately, me and Perez are going to focus on getting team points. Today was a big drive because we had Mercedes that have just crept up out of nowhere in the Constructors, so I think the focus right now is stay clear of Mercedes, and I think today we've managed to do that.
And how did you find the change of conditions? Because at one point we saw both you and Perez go into the pit what looked like the same lap, and when you were both very close on the grid, it looked quite questionable as to what the thought process was behind you both going in at the same time, and Perez kind of losing a little bit of time on that.
Yeah, so the comms were turned off at that moment between me and Perez, and I think he had some significant damage to underbody, so his race was quite badly compromised. So he was just boxing, kind of hope of getting anything from it. We had quite a good setup that played for the weather, so I think Perez was quite confident he could come back. Whether he lost 2-3 seconds in the pit, I think he was confident even with the underbody damage he could claim that back. The conditions were a tough race, man, very tough race, and I think that the switch to the hards, and then I built up a 26-second box position over Sandman, so I think that came back to benefit me at the end.
Absolutely. Well, Danger David, once again, congratulations for another step on the podium, and hopefully we'll speak to you next week, and best of luck, of course, in the championship finale for this season.
Lovely, thanks guys.
We'll move on now to speak to Quincy. Of course, not the race that you'd have hoped for with the Mercedes today, is it?
Nah, didn't get any opportunity to show any sort of pace or whatever. Turn 1 had orange body damage and wing damage, so I was just slow throughout the whole race. I think that was the first time this season that I've come in under top 10, apart from Miami, so hugely disappointing, to be honest. But we'll just reset and go again for France next week.
And what is the sort of target for you guys as a team at the moment? You've just heard Danger David saying that the intention is to, kind of stay away a little bit from the Mercedes next week in France. What's your sort of target as a team?
Me and Shane, we just aim to just bring the points in, to be honest. We usually just try and have a clean race, get in there and get as high as possible as we can. I just want to finish in the top 10 because last season I dropped just below of race and wheel. I came 11th in the championship, so I'm just trying to finish top 10, and then next season I can move forward and hopefully gain some more pace. But that's just my aim. Shane's new to the wheel now. He used to be a controller player, so his pace is just unreal on the wheel as well. So I think he'll just keep getting better and better. Next season he's one to watch for the drivers, I think.
I absolutely hope you're right. Quincy, thank you very much for joining us. We will wrap things up by speaking finally to the Alpine of Racing Wheel. I mean, we can say it wasn't the race for Mercedes, but it certainly wasn't the race for you guys either, was it today?
No, I just tried to finish the race, so I'm happy. Last week I was not able to finish the race. I was disqualified, so I did not have the pace, but nevertheless I'm happy that I finished and I scored some points.
When we started doing commentary at the back end of the last season, it was very much a close battle for third between yourselves and with the Aston Martin. That doesn't seem to be the situation this season. Where do you think the changes have really come from Alpine that's changed that for you?
I think it's because of the new game. It's more difficult for me now. The 22 game was more easier for us, and I don't know. Maybe it's maybe we have wrong setups, or but something is not going well. The pace is not there. Can't really change that at the moment. So just trying to get the car home and score points. That's where I'm focusing on at the moment.
I guess the constant weather changes aren't going to be helpful either. I know obviously today it was something that your car and yourself struggled with. How did you really find the adaptability moving from the slicks into the intermediates to the wets, and then of course making the exact reverse to finish the race?
I like the dynamic racing conditions. Today I had bad luck that there was no safety car at the start, and that the gap was just too big. I was 1 lap behind already, so I couldn't catch up with the field. But if you compare it with the race in Miami, there we also had changing weather conditions, and there I was able to shine for a short moment, gaining a good position. I think I became 8th or 7th in that race. That was really nice. So I really like these dynamic conditions, and I always try to make the best situation out of it.
Absolutely. Well, gents, thank you very much for joining us. Look forward to hearing from you all at the conclusion of the season, and of course at the end of France next week. Skinner, are you still there at the moment?
Aye.
You are at the moment. So you got to hear then Danger David's opinion. You're absolutely right. But yeah, of course, it's all about putting that pressure on Sandman. Next Monday, with the race finale taking place in France, we'll, of course, be back at 7:30. Skin, thank you very much for joining me this week. As ever, it's been a pleasure. At least the conclusion of the race was entertaining for you.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And I will close off with the fact that I'm absolutely raging at you that you didn't ask Herman what happened in qualifying. But is what it is.
I apologise. I thought you mentioned it was technical difficulties, so I'll let that be. But either way, he managed to get away with the race win, and he'll be more than happy with that. But yeah, we'll be back next Monday from a 7:30 start for the race, the season finale in France.
Good luck, everyone.